This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. I'm a big fan of shave soap. I've been using different brands for years, and I recently gave Sterling's shave soaps a try, and I've been very happy with the results. Sterling's shave soaps give you a great lather and a frictionless feel that allows the razor to glide right over the skin for a super close shave. No skin irritation and a clean, refreshing feel with no soapy residue after. I can tell you without a doubt, it's simply the best shave I've ever had. And my wife has noticed too. And here's the thing. With the ability to purchase 1-ounce sample pucks, you can try out different scents to find the right one for you. Give Sterling Soap a try today. Visit sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. It's May 1st, and on this day in 1981, the Boston Celtics finally broke the curse of the Spectrum to stay alive in the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 6 of the greatest NBA playoff series ever played, the 1981 Eastern Conference Finals, Philadelphia led 3-2 over the Celtics heading into Game 6. 3 of the 5 games so far had been decided by 2 points or less, and Game 6 had a little bit of everything. A comeback from a double-digit deficit, a scuffle between players and fans, and a pissed-off Larry Bird plunging daggers in the heart of the opponent. So, in order to have a comeback, we've got to build a lead first, and Philly did that out of the gate. Darryl Dawkins was known more for his backboard-breaking dunks, but he showcased a nice, mellow mid-range game starting off this one.
Jones and Dawkins left open for the moment by Robert Harris. Sits outside, and he's been dangerous with that popper. Dawkins will try again. He's 4 for 4. Darryl Dawkins, perfect from the field, and the Sixers are up.
The Sixers built a 17-point lead in the first half, and it looked like Philly was going to extend their home winning streak against the Celtics to 12 games and march on to the finals. But Boston dug in and chipped away at the lead to only a 9-point Sixer advantage at the half. But it may be what happened in the third quarter that really lit the fire for the Celtics. With 8:15 to play in the third period, Philly had a 10-point lead, and then this happened. So, a little description here. Cedric Maxwell and Dawkins went after the rebound. Maxwell got there first, and as he was falling out of bounds, Dawkins gave him a shove. Well, that sent him hurtling into a Philly fan who was walking back to his seat along the baseline. Inadvertent contact for sure, but the fan yelled something at Maxwell, and by a few of the reports that I read about this, apparently the guy threw a lit cigar at him. And that is when Maxwell turned and jumped the guy, with both winding up in the seats. So after order was restored, you know what was great about this whole thing? A foul was called on Dawkins for the push. That's it. No technical fouls, no ejections, no reviewing the play for 15 friggin' minutes. 2 minutes later, they were playing ball again. Well, I take that back. There was one ejection. The cigar-throwing fan was escorted out of the Spectrum a few minutes later.
Taken out of the game. Fan who was involved in the fight. Now, I don't know, as we said...
The intensity in the building went up.
There are some Boston fans here, and they're going at each other a little bit verbally under the bench.
And the Celtics responded.
Bird gets free inside, coming off a pick low, and a 5-point lead for Philadelphia. Lunchtime is only beginning, my friends, as Larry Bird hits a shot outside. He has 11 points in this quarter and 18 in the game. Tiny tries to drive. Bird, rebound, basket good, and a foul. And everyone is on the floor. More people on the floor than standing up. And Andrew Toney leaning over.
Bird hit the free throw to complete the 3-point play, and Boston had erased the lead in the fourth quarter. But the drama was not over on the court or in the stands.
Collins to Bobby Jones, going to the hoop. Basket counts and a foul on Bird. And some fan just threw a container filled with ice on the court.
So after Jones posterized Larry Bird, and side note here, I am a fan of announcer Dick Stockton who was calling the game for CBS that day, but he completely undersold Jones's dunk. It was massive. Gus Johnson would have described it with a perfect mix of awe and aneurysm that this jam deserved. Anyway, so a fan threw an ice-filled drink at the backboard. Play was stopped to clean up the court, and even Kevin McHale got in on the cleanup, giving new meaning to cleaning up the boards, I guess.
And now the window washing time by Kevin McHale, and he's big enough to do it.
The game went back and forth from there. The Celtics took their first lead of the game, and then the Sixers came back and took the lead again. Bird's final points in the game came on a fortuitous bounce. A rim that had been rejecting poor shots all afternoon softened just a bit, and Larry Legend's short shot softly popped into the air, caressed the backboard for a precious moment, and fell through for the bucket. Bird finished with 25 points and 16 rebounds. And a shot like that was a harbinger of doom for Philadelphia. The Fates had deemed a Game 7 a necessity. The Sixers had an opportunity to win it late, but a couple of missed free throws ensured Boston's 100-98 win in the Spectrum, snapping their 11-game losing streak in the building. The series shifted back to Boston for a classic Game 7. On this day in 1994, it was a tragic day in Formula One racing, capping what had been an even more tragic race weekend in Italy. It was the third weekend on the Formula One schedule. Michael Schumacher had won the first two races of the season with his Benetton team. The series was in Italy for the San Marino Grand Prix. They were racing this week at Imola, a stretch of asphalt known for being a fast, narrow, and dangerous racetrack. And this weekend would soon become known as the Black Weekend. On Friday, Rubens Barrichello was involved in a horrible crash during practice when his car went airborne and slammed into a tire wall. He was knocked out but fortunately survived, suffering a broken nose, broken arm, along with minor cuts and bumps. But death loomed around the track, and on Saturday, a rookie driver named Roland Ratzenberger was killed during the second qualifying session. Compared to the Barrichello accident, it looked innocuous enough, but it was anything but. Ratzenberger had damaged his front wing going through a chicane earlier in the run. After a quick check, he continued on, but a piece of that wing broke off and it got jammed, making the car difficult to steer. And as a result, coming out of the dangerous Tamburello corner, he lost control and he hit the wall at 196 miles per hour. His friend Ayrton Senna hopped in a safety car to check on Ratzenberger, and he was criticized for doing that later, but he wanted information. Senna felt like information from race and track officials was slow in getting to the drivers, or simply being withheld. It took several hours for the news of Ratzenberger's death to reach the garage area. Now, Ratzenberger had actually died in his race car, but he was removed from his car and transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead later. The reason that's important is that under Italian law, an on-track death during a race weekend would have halted all events until the accident could be investigated. The race would have been canceled, or at least postponed. By pronouncing him dead at the hospital, racing activities could continue at the track. Ratzenberger's death was the first F1 racing fatality in 12 years. Also, Senna was with a new team this season, having left McLaren, where he had won 3 Formula One championships, to join the Williams racing team. Williams had the power he felt was lacking at McLaren, but due to an off-season ruling by Formula One removing some of the technology from the car, he lacked control. In the first 2 races, he had yet to claim any points. At his home track in Brazil, he spun out and crashed while leading. He was frustrated, but on this day, race day, Senna was in the pole position, Schumacher on the outside. At the drop of the green flag, there was an immediate problem. A car on the grid several rows behind Senna stalled, and another driver plowed into the back of it, bringing out an immediate yellow flag and the safety car. Now, this first crash was so bad that a security officer and 8 race fans were injured from the flying debris as a result of the impact of the crash. Senna was not happy for a lot of reasons, but he got frustrated at the safety driver for driving too slow. Senna felt the heat leaving his tires. Hotter tires are grippier tires. The safety car pulled off the track on lap 5 for the restart of the race. On lap 7, entering the left-hand Tamburello turn, Senna lost control of his race car, went off the track to the right, and he crashed into the outside wall at 131 miles per hour. When paramedics arrived on the scene, Senna was alive, but he had a very low pulse. The chief medical officer that day was Dr. Sid Watkins. He said he raised the eyelids of Senna, and it was clear from his pupils that he had a massive brain injury. He went on to say, quote, "We lifted him from the cockpit and laid him on the ground. As we did, he sighed, and although I am not religious, I felt his spirit depart at that moment." He was flown to a nearby hospital, but was pronounced brain dead at 6:40 p.m. local time. News of Senna's condition was held until the completion of the race. Schumacher won his third race in 3 starts, but on the podium, there was no celebration, no champagne, no music. After being given the news of Senna, the race results were announced, and the drivers walked somberly off the podium. An investigation into the crash later determined that the impact caused his front right tire and suspension to break away from his car. A fragment of the suspension pierced Senna's helmet, causing a skull fracture and severe brain injury, resulting in his death. Several safety features came about as a result of Senna's crash and death. By 1999, FIA incorporated higher cockpit sides to protect drivers' heads from impact. Tethers were added to the wheels to prevent them from detaching. Additional runoff areas at tracks were put in to help reduce the car's speed once they did leave the track, and efforts were put in place to slow the cars down while on the track during racing. Ayrton Senna, a 3-time Formula One champion, died on this day at the age of 34. On this day in 1920, it was the longest Major League Baseball game by innings in history, as the Boston Braves and Brooklyn Robins played a total of 26 innings before darkness fell and the game had to be halted at 1-1, and it never was restarted. It is in the record books as a tie. Amazingly, they played 26 innings in just 3 hours 50 minutes, so obviously this was before lights were introduced in ballparks, and apparently the idea of relief pitching was not even a glimmer. Both the Braves starting pitcher Joe Esker and the Robins' Leon Cador pitched all 26 innings. Neither pitcher allowed a run over the last 20. Esker actually pitched a 9-inning no-hitter. It just wasn't the first 9. More impressively, though, is that it was his final 9 innings. Esker also set a record that day by pitching 21 consecutive scoreless innings in a game, and said that pitching all those innings was really about job security. He told a reporter from the Sarasota Herald-Tribune decades later, if a pitcher could not go the distance, well, he soon found himself some other form of occupation. Both Esker and Cador pitched out of jams throughout, and each pitcher got inning-ending double plays with the bases loaded. The game did take a toll on both guys, though. Esker could not lift his right arm to brush his teeth that night, so he had to do it with his left. Cador is said to have slept the better part of the next 2 days recuperating from his effort. Interestingly, these same 2 teams met at the same park 19 seasons later and played to a 2-2 tie in 23 innings. On this day in 1991, it was another amazing pitching performance for Nolan Ryan in a 27-year career full of them as he pitched his 7th career no-hitter. Now, Ryan was an ageless 44-year-old playing for the Texas Rangers. The Rangers were playing a pretty stout Toronto Blue Jays team on this night with Roberto Alomar, Joe Carter, Glenn Allen Hill in the lineup. But Ryan still had zip on his fastball, and he mixed in a changeup or a hard-breaking curveball every now and again. Ryan had 15 strikeouts when Alomar came to the plate in the top of the 9th with 2 outs. Alomar had gotten his first career hit off of Ryan when he was a San Diego Padre 3 years earlier, and he was a tough out. He took some good cuts, fouled a couple off, and stared at a couple out of the strike zone. But the Ryan Express was getting ready to turn into a bullet train.
That's it! Number 7 is in the books. The remarkable Ryan has done it again.
He struck out every Blue Jays batter at least once to tally 16 and only walked 2 in a 3-0 win for his 7th career no-hitter. He had become the oldest to throw a no-hitter the year before with number 6, so this added a few more months onto that record. So Nolan's 7th career no-hitter stole a lot of the spotlight from a guy who loved the bright glare of notoriety because also on this day in 1991, on the West Coast, Oakland's Ricky Henderson became the all-time leading base stealer in Major League history. In the 4th inning, and Henderson on second, he took a confident lead off the bag and then took off when New York Yankees pitcher Tim Leary delivered to the plate.
1-0 deficit. Ricky goes. A pitch taken. He's going to have it. He does. Ricky Henderson, no contest, steals third base, jerks the bag from its moorings, and holds it aloft, representing number 939.
Henderson passed Lou Brock as the all-time base stealer on this day. There was a brief on-field celebration as Brock himself congratulated Henderson. Brock set his mark in 19 seasons. Henderson was able to break the record in his 13th. Interesting fact, though, Henderson actually was caught stealing twice in this game, once in the 1st inning in his first attempt to break the record, and again in the 5th. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. 2 years before he was assassinated, Abraham Lincoln went to Ford's Theater with his wife Mary Todd and saw a play titled The Marble Heart, starring John Wilkes Booth. Booth played the villain in the production, and he delivered a few of his lines with a little venom while staring at Lincoln. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.